With a considerable distance between himself and his pursuers, Henry makes his next move. Galloway, Scotland. The occupants of the carriage were an old shepherd and his dog, a wall-eyed brute and mistrusted. The man was asleep, and on the cushions beside him was that morning Scotsman. Scotsman. Underwear.
God.
Empire Day murder shocks London. Scotland Yard's top officers have been called into action following the brutal slaying of a decorated British officer in a affluent apartment block in London, near Portland Place. The killing took place during last week's Empire Day celebrations. The as yet unnamed man was discovered in the first floor flat on Saturday morning by his valet, Mr. Paddock. Intriguingly, the victim was not in charge of the apartment. The owner was not to be found. Even more intriguing is that the arrest of a local milkman found whistling in the hallway of the apartment, a mere 5 minutes away from Oxford Street. Mr. Paddock sprang the alarm and had the young man arrested. Scotland Yard Commissioner Mr. McGillivray said his top officer were currently interviewing the suspect. This is one of the most horrendous murders we had in this part of London for some time. The fact that it happened on Empire Day just makes the whole affair even more abhorrent. To make sure that no stone is left unturned in bringing the killer to justice, Mr. Paddock had informed the police that the dead man's name was Sir Captain Digby of the 40th Gurkhas and had been at the apartment for 4 days. As yet, Scotland Yard has been unable to confirm the identity. The details of the murder was also sparse. This is the second dead body to have been found in this very apartment block in the past week. Just 6 days earlier, an American businessman identified as a Mr. Christopher Rick was found in his apartment having committed suicide. Neighbor Mrs. Twiston said, "This is a respectable part of the city, safe behind closed doors, at least until now. I'm all shook up. Cancel my milk order." McGillivray assured residents that there is nothing to be concerned about and there are no apparent connections between the deaths, and that the latest killing is most likely the result of a financial dispute. Portland Place killer on the run. I could smell the alcohol in his breath. You were approaching the station at which I had got out yesterday. The potato digging station master had been gingered up into some activity, for the westbound train was waiting to let us pass. From it descended three men who were asking him questions. Sitting well back in the shadow, I watched them carefully. I suppose that they were the local police who had been stirred up by Scotland Yard and had traced me as far as this one-horse siding. One of them had a book and took down notes. The old potato digger seemed to have turned peevish. The child who had collected my ticket was talking volubly. All the party looked out across the moor with the white road departed. I had hoped they were going to take up my tracks there. As we moved away from the station, the old shepherd began to stir. Choo choo!
Quiet, you! Where am I? Oh, where am I?
You're on a train, traveling east towards Dumfries, in Scotland.
Oh, that's what comes of being a teetotaler.
What? I expressed my surprise that in him I should have met the blue ribbon stolid.
Oh, I'm a strong teetotaler. I took the pledge last Martinmas and I haven't touched a drop of whiskey since then. Not even a Hogmanay, though I was sair tempted. That's what I get. I heat better than hellfire and twine looking different ways for the Sabbath.
What did it?
Here, a drink they call brandy. Now, being a teetotaler, I keep it after whiskey, but I was nip not there as brandy, and I doubt I'll not be wheel for a fortnight.
Okay, and I had never heard that word either. The teetotaler. The teetotaler. That means a person who never drinks alcohol. That's also a new word for me. That's why he's all tired, because he's been drinking brandy, huh? And he's not used to drinking alcohol. My plan had been to get out at some station down the line, but the train suddenly gave me a better chance. I looked out and saw that every carriage window was closed and no human figure appeared in the landscape. So I drove quickly from the carriage. The dog went with us. It would have been alright but for the infernal dog.
Where am I? Oh, where am I? He's jumped. He's jumped to his death.
I could not have made a more public departure if I had left with a burglar and a brass band. Happily, the drunken shepherd provided a diversion. He and his dog, which was attached by a rope to his waist, suddenly cascaded out of the carriage.
That blasted dog just bit me.
They had forgotten me. Such a well-timed distraction all of that became. I looked back, but there was nothing in the landscape. For the first time, I felt the terror of the hunted on me. It was not the police that I thought of, but the other four, who knew that I knew Scudder's secret and dared not to let me live. I was certain that they would pursue me with a keenness and vigilance unknown to the British law, that once the grip closed on me I should find no mercy. The mood did not leave me until I had reached the rim of mountain and flung myself panting on a ridge high above the young waters of the river. Nice place. I have eyes like a hawk, but I could see nothing moving in the whole countryside. Then I looked into the blue May sky, and there I saw that which set my pulses racing. I was as certain as if I had been told that the airplane was looking for me, that it did not belong to the police. These heather hills were no sort of cover if my enemies were in the sky, and I must find a different kind of sanctuary. I kept on words. At 6 in the evening I came out of the moorland. As when a griffin fought the wilderness with swinged step, over hill and moor they pursued
through
him.
the wilderness with winged step. As when a griffin through the wilderness with winged step o'er hill and moory dale pursues the Arimaspian.
Yep. Yes, I wasn't supposed to read that one. Each smoked and savory rose floated from the house.
Good evening to you. It's a fine night for the road.
Is that place an inn?
At your service. I'm the landlord, sir. And I hope you will stay the night, for, to tell you the truth, I've had no company for a week.
I pulled myself up on a parapet of the bridge and filled my... I began to detect an ally.
You're young to be an innkeeper?
My father died a year ago and left me the business. I live there with my grandmother. It's a slow job for a young man, and it wasn't my choice, the profession.
Which was?
He actually blushed.
I want to write books.
And what better chance could you ask? Man, I've often thought that an innkeeper would make the best storyteller in the world.
Oh, not now. Maybe in the old days when you had pilgrims and ballad makers and highwaymen and mail coaches on the road. But not now. Nothing comes here but motor cars full of fat women who stop for lunch and a fisherman or two in the spring and the shooting tenants in August. There's not much material to be got out of that. I want to see life, to travel the world and write things like Kipling and Conrad. But the most I've done yet is to get some verses printed in Chambers' Journal.
I looked at the inn standing golden in the sunset against the brown hills.
I've knocked a bit about the world, and I wouldn't despise such a hermitage. Do you think that adventure is only found in the tropics or among gentry in red shirts? Maybe you're rubbing shoulders with it at this moment.
That's what Kipling says. Brother romance, and all unseen bromance brought up the 915.
Yes. But here's a true tale for you then. And a month from now, you can make a novel out of it.
Or of epic proportions. Mr. Richard Hannay was a successful mining magnate from Kimberley, Australia. When his luck changed and he ran into serious financial troubles. We're here for the money. I owe you nothing. Fug chased Hannay across the Kalahari to German Africa, pursuing him across the ocean. Doom to doom. Yeah, it reminds me of like the old style of movies and stuff. He got away and fled to London. But he tracked him down. My hat! He had killed his friend and was chasing Hannah yet.
You're looking for adventure? Well, you found it here. The devils are after me and the police are after them. It's a race that I mean to win.
By God! It's all pure Rider Haggard of Conan Doyle.
You believe me?
Of course I do. I believe everything out of the common. The only thing to distrust is the normal.
Okay. He was very young, but he was the man with my money.
I think they're off my track for the moment, but I must lie close for a couple of days. Can you take me in?
He caught my elbow in his eagerness and drew me towards the house. As I entered the inn porch and I heard from far off the beat of an engine. He gave me a room at the back of the house with a fine outlook over the plateau. I smoked in a chair till daylight, for I could not sleep. The next morning, I wanted some time to myself, so I invented a job for him. He had a motor bicycle, and I sent him off next morning to the daily paper, which usually arrived with the post in the late afternoon. I told him to keep his eyes skinned and make note of any strange figures he saw, keeping a special sharp lookout for motors and airplanes. Then I sat down in real earnest to Scudder's notebook. Portland Place murderer in Scotland. London police have reason to believe that the Portland Place murderer has travelled north into Scotland in his bid to escape the authorities. It has also come to light that the milkman has provided damning evidence against the flat's owner, Mr. Richard Hannay, in connection to the murder of Captain Theophilus Digby. He told me that he was playing a game, said the milkman. He needed to be a milkman for half an hour, and I believed him. But he never came back. He took my hat and coat too. The thief? The milkman's uniform has since been discovered behind a hoarding in an alleyway opposite Mr. Hannay's apartment. Fear not, if there is a killer in Scotland, we will track him down, said Lothian and Borders Police Chief Mr. Hamish Smith. We will be putting extra resources into this manhunt. Did anyone spot Mr. Hannay, a 37-year-old man of average height and build? You should not try and apprehend him. Hannay is known to be a military man with considerable skills with weaponry. The Albanian revolt. Rebels release prisoners. The insurgents have released all the prisoners. Prince William yesterday rode out to the outpost. Everything is now quiet here. Karloides, the Greek premier. The state of the Balkans have become the most vexing issue on the international stage. Various failures to resolve the Eastern question over the preceding decades have left Europe facing renewed crisis after crisis. Amidst this maelstrom, Greek Prime Minister Kolorio, there could be Konstantin Kolorios, no? Karolides is regarded as the key stabilizing force in a region beset by regime changes, rebellion, and intractable territorial claims. Yeah. Information collected January and May 1940 Franklin P. Skeller. Yeah, we can read this since still. Same thing. Oh, that's all together. The hills of home. I was born in the land of Scotland when the heather was turning brown. I grew in the hills of Scotland and wanted to leave my town. I'm bored in the land of Scotland. Please take me away. These desolate plains of Scotland are not where I wish to stay. What the innkeeper saw. Donald woke to the sound of hammering. Bump the hammer did strike. Bump the hammer pierced his brain, and again. The beam above his head creaked as the wind whistled around the small cottage. He heard his grandmother moving about in the next room. His father would be at the river already, checking to see if the eggs had hatched. Dear Mr. Fraser, thank you for sending us your latest poem, A Frozen Heart in Summer Days. We'll be delighted to publish your poem in the January issue of next year. You'll return the manuscript once it has been copied by recorded post. Sincerely yours, Edward Lothian, editor. A frozen heart in summer days. Last winter our chests were warm, as homely fires burnt till dawn. Inn was full with passing trade, a perfect home for travellers bade. The spring was pleasant, and new life did spring. We cooked up a pheasant that my father brought in. But things did change as the sun arrived. But things did change as my father died. The place became empty, my thoughts then lost. The passing of life is the eternal cost. Now this summer our chests are cold. This inn no longer the place of old. My heart is frozen like the eternal look. On my father's face his life was took. But life goes on, but life goes on. I take over the business as my father's son. My dreams will hold, though never gone. My words have meaning, my father's son. Okay. Okay. Replace things. I glance out of the window. Seem to be two of them, men in costumes and tweed caps. One was slim, the other was sleek. That was the most I could make of my reconnaissance. Ten minutes later, the innkeeper slipped into the room, his eyes bright with excitement.
There's two chaps below looking for you. They're in the dining room having whiskies and sodas. They asked about you and said they'd hoped to meet you here. Oh, and they described you jolly well, down to your boots and shirt. I told them you'd been here last night and gone off on a motor bicycle this morning. And one of the chaps swore like a navvy.
I made him tell me what they looked like. I think Keeper is a good one. Lied for us. One was a dark-eyed thin fellow with bushy eyebrows. The other was always smiling and lisped in his talk. Neither was any kind of foreigner. This, my young friend, was positive. Took a bit of paper and wrote words in German as they were part of a letter.
Take this down and say it was found in my bedroom and ask them to return it to me if they overtake me.
Okay.
Blackstone. Scudder had gotten to this, but he could not act for a fortnight. I doubt if I can do any good now, especially as Carolides is uncertain about his plans. But if Mr. T advises, I will do the best I...
Your paper woke them up. The dark fellow went as white as death and cursed like blazes. And the fat one whistled and looked ugly. They paid for their drinks with half a sovereign and wouldn't wait for change.
Now, I'll tell you what I want you to do. Get on your bicycle and go off to Newton Stewart to the chief constable. Describe the two men and say you suspect them of having had something to do with the London murder. You can invent reasons. The two will come back, never fear. Not tonight, for they'll follow me 40 miles along the road, but first thing tomorrow morning. Tell the police to be here bright and early.
He set off like a docile child while I worked at Scudder's notes.
Aha!
Had a sudden inspiration. Scudder had said Julia Cheney was the key to the Carolides business, and it occurred to me to try it on his cipher. It worked. The 5 letters of Julia gave me the positions of the vowels. Cheney gave me the numerals for the principal consonants. I scribbled that scheme on a bit of paper. In half an hour I was reading with a whitish face and fingers that drummed on the table. That evening we dined together. Out of common decency, I had to let him pump me for information. I gave him a lot of stuff about Lion Hounds and the Matabele War, thinking all the while that what tame business these were compared to this I was now engaged in. When he went to bed, again, I sat up. I had finished Gadda's book.